I feel like I'm getting hammered.
Last season, Caitlin Clark faced a lot of cheap shots, rough plays, and defenders who tried to push her around. But that's all in the past now. The Indiana Fever have built a tough team with not one, not two, but three players who won't let anyone get away with that kind of behavior anymore.
So the Indiana Fever have got their enforcer. They have got their enforcer for Caitlin Clark. And I'm not gonna lie, like, when it comes to Caitlin Clark and their enforcer, last year everyone was talking about the media enforcer.
Enter Natasha Howard, Sophie Cunningham, and Dawana Borner, three seasoned veterans who play with a tough, no-nonsense attitude. They're not afraid to get physical when needed. If anyone thought they could keep attacking Clark with rough fouls and dirty plays, they're in for a big surprise. The message is simple: if you go after Clark, you'll have to face them first.
The closest thing they had was Erica Wheeler. That was the closest thing they had for someone to defend Caitlin Clark, was Erica freaking Wheeler. Maybe Tammy, but Caitlin Clark was getting hit a lot. She was getting hit a lot early and they needed their Charles Oakley.
This move isn't just about adding talent, it's about making a statement. The Fever aren't just here to compete, they're here to dominate. With these new additions, they've built a team that can play fast, play tough, and most importantly, protect their star player. Clark's critics have been put on notice. So, how will these three game changers help turn the Fever into one of the most dangerous teams in the WNBA? Let's break it down.
Sometimes you need one of those players on your team. You need one of those enforcers. Every good player, by the way. Every good player, every good team that is a super duper star. Most of the time have enforcer type players.
Picture this: Caitlin Clark, the most exciting rookie the WNBA has seen in years, steps onto the court for her debut season. The energy is high, fans are buzzing, and everyone is eager to see her shine. But instead of a smooth transition into the league, what does she face? Hard fouls, excessive contact, and a level of physical play that seemed to be aimed directly at her. What was going on here?
That's all I see. They try so long to get respect for women's basketball, and then they treat it like a junior high school girl's locker room. Junior high school girl antics on the court.
Let's break it down. This wasn't just the usual rookie treatment. Clark was facing an aggression that went well beyond typical competition. She was constantly hit with cheap shots, body checks, and fouls that had no place on the court. At times, it felt more like she was stepping into a wrestling ring than a basketball game. Here's the shocking part: Clark wasn't just another rookie trying to adjust to the physicality of the game, she was being singled out. The numbers back this up: a staggering 17% of all flagrant fouls in the WNBA last season were committed against her. That's not just tough defense, it's clear that players were making a point to rough her up.
Now, what little girl wants to grow up and play in a league where you're targeted like that? How do you sit here and profess and demand that everyone take women's sports seriously when you can't even take it seriously enough to not act like a junior high queen on the court? It's stupid. That's so dumb. It looks like a soap opera.
And leading the charge? None other than the Chicago Sky. A staggering 80% of those flagrant fouls against Clark came from just one team. That's not a coincidence, that's a statement. They weren't just trying to defend her, they were trying to send a message. But why? Was it intimidation, frustration, or just an old-school attempt to slow down a rising star? Whatever the reason, it was clear that Clark's presence was making some players uneasy.
Clark! Hammer!
One of the worst examples came courtesy of Angel Reese herself. Picture Clark driving through the lane, eyes locked on the basket, when suddenly, bam! Reese sends her crashing to the floor. The arena went silent. Fans held their breath. Would she get up? The hit was so bad that even commentators started questioning whether it had gone too far. But Clark? She's built different. She dusted herself off, got back to her feet, and kept playing like nothing happened.
I think we went up really strong a lot of times and we didn't get a lot of calls. And going back and looking at the film, I've seen a lot of calls that weren't made. I guess some people got a special whistle.
One of the most memorable moments came from Angel Reese herself. Picture this: Clark driving through the lane, eyes focused on the basket, when suddenly, bam! Reese sends her crashing to the floor. The arena went quiet, and fans held their breath, wondering if she'd get up. The hit was so harsh that even commentators started questioning if it had crossed the line. But Clark? She's built different. She shook it off, got back up, and kept playing like nothing had happened.
And Clark. I mean, that's clearly a foul, which was called. The question is, will they call it unnecessary. Kennedy Carter.
That's what sets Clark apart, her composure under pressure. While others were debating whether the hits went too far, she stayed focused. Even after taking a clear cheap shot from Chendi Carter, Clark's response was simple: "That's just not a basketball play, but I've got to play through it." No complaints, no retaliation, just the kind of mental toughness that turns players into legends.
And Clark.
The signing of Natasha Howard represents a massive step forward for the Indiana Fever and their quest for a championship. In Howard, the Fever gain a three-time WNBA champion, a Defensive Player of the Year, an All-Star, and a veteran with more than 300 games played.
While Clark showed she could handle the hits, the Fever front office knew they couldn't let her go through another season unprotected. So, they made some big moves. With the addition of some serious enforcers, Indiana is making sure no one gets away with bullying Clark anymore. Who are these enforcers, and how will they change the entire dynamic of the Indiana Fever? Let's dive in.
But all of that, and we haven't yet touched upon what Howard does best: defend. Howard was named Defensive Player of the Year in 2019 and has finished in the top 10 of the Defensive Player of the Year voting 3 times in her career. Howard has averaged at least 1 block and 1 steal per game in each of her last 7 seasons. And that versatility is really what makes her a weapon on defense.
Natasha Howard isn't just another addition to the Indiana Fever, she's the enforcer the team desperately needed. The moment she stepped into that locker room, the message was clear: Caitlin Clark is no longer an easy target. For those who don't know, Howard is a 3-time WNBA champion, a former Defensive Player of the Year, and a player with the kind of toughness that can change a team's entire identity. She's not here for gimmicks, she's here to make sure the days of Clark getting bullied on the court are over.
Last season, with a minimum of 25 games played, Natasha Howard was one of just 13 players to average 18 points per game. She was one of 16 players to average 7 rebounds per game. And the list of players to average both 18 and 7 last year: short and elite. Asia Wilson, Brianna Stewart, Nafisa Collier, Brittany Griner, and yes, Natasha Howard.
Last season, Clark faced relentless physicality from defenders who thought they could rough her up without facing any consequences. But now, those same defenders are going to have to think twice before pulling those stunts. Howard's presence alone is enough to shift the balance of power. Standing next to Clark on the court, she instantly commands respect. But Howard isn't just about enforcing the rules, she's a game changer on both ends of the floor. Last season, she averaged 17.6 points, 6.7 rebounds, and nearly 3 assists per game. That's elite level production. And the best part? She can stretch the floor. With Howard's ability to hit from beyond the arc, she'll create even more space for Clark, Kelsey Mitchell, and Aaliyah Boston to work their magic.
But that wingspan and 6'2" height allows her to be disruptive defensively around the rim on opposing bigs too. In fact, Howard will enter the 2025 season 25th all-time in blocks in WNBA history.
Defense is where Howard really stands out. There's a reason she won Defensive Player of the Year in 2019. She's a nightmare for anyone trying to score in the paint. With her length, toughness, and aggressive play, she makes it difficult for opponents to get anything easy. And when it comes to protecting her teammates, she's always been someone who steps up when it matters most. What might be even more valuable about Howard's arrival is her playoff experience. The Fever are a young team with a lot of potential, but making deep playoff runs takes composure and leadership that only veterans like Howard can provide. Having played in over 50 postseason games, her experience is priceless. She knows what it takes to win, and she's bringing that winning mentality to Indiana.
Caitlin Clark was getting hit a lot. She was getting hit a lot early, and they needed their Charles Oakley. You've got that in Sophie Cunningham.
Howard's excitement is just as high as the Fever fans. In her own words, "I'm excited to return to Indiana and bring my experience and toughness to the team. I want to help Caitlin and the Fever compete at the highest level." And that's exactly what she's going to do. This move isn't just about protecting Clark, it's about elevating her. Howard knows what it takes to be a champion, and now she's here to show Clark and the Fever how to dominate. With her on board, Indiana isn't just fighting back, they're ready to take over.
There are so many videos of Sophie Cunningham just starting brawls.
Sophie Cunningham is heading to Indiana, and the WNBA just got a whole lot more exciting. If Caitlin Clark needed someone to handle the bullies while knocking down threes, she just got her. The Fever weren't just looking for talent this offseason, they were looking for toughness, and with Cunningham, they got both.
Sophie Cunningham, in general, is just wild. Wild is the best word I can use to describe Sophie Cunningham. And, like, it is just, it's carnage. Like, it's carnage a lot of time when Sophie Cunningham gets involved with anything. The amount of fights that Sophie Cunningham has been involved in is mental.
Some might be wondering, wasn't Sophie Cunningham supposed to be luring Clark to Phoenix? Well, it turns out Clark had other plans. Instead of heading west, she made sure Cunningham joined her squad. This wasn't just a random signing, it was a strategic move. The Fever needed someone who could bring energy, attitude, and relentless toughness, and Cunningham checks all those boxes.
She hits a three, Maisha Hines-Allen fouls her, and then tries to step over, and then Sophie Cunningham grabs her leg. Nobody's going near Maisha Hines-Allen, but no, Sophie Cunningham will start the fight. The refs are trying to break it up. None of the Mercury players are going to go near Maisha Hines-Allen. They're scared. She's scared of bejesus out of them. Maisha Hines-Allen is one of the toughest players in this league. Sophie Cunningham going head to head straight with her.
Wild is probably the best word to describe Sophie Cunningham. When she's on the court, it's pure chaos. She brings the intensity like no one else. The number of scrappy moments and fights she's been part of is insane. Cunningham is always in the thick of it, making sure no one takes it easy.
Like Sophie Cunningham, there are so many things where it's like, part of it her fault, part of it not her fault, but she will not back down. She will not back down under any circumstances from anything. And that is what the Indiana Fever need. If somebody hits Caitlin Clark, if somebody does what Victoria Vivians did to Caitlin Clark, it's not going to be Caitlin Clark that's getting involved to be teed up. Sophie Cunningham's in there. You take the technical foul. You take it.
Cunningham is a perfect fit for Indiana. First off, her shooting. She's not just tough, she's an elite marksman from beyond the arc. Last season, she shot 37.8% from deep, and with Clark running the offense, you can expect that number to go even higher. Imagine defenses trying to guard Clark and Mitchell while Cunningham is wide open from three. Good luck with that.
Like Sophie Cunningham is guarding the screen here, and she just takes a hard hit. Not like nothing major. So she's down. And then after taking a hard hit, just gets back up and laughs. Gets back up and laughs a bit.
But shooting isn't the only thing Cunningham brings to the table. She's got an edge, a mean streak. She's the kind of player who plays through contact, talks the talk, and backs it up. And let's not forget, she's a Taekwondo black belt. So, for any defenders thinking about getting extra physical with Clark this season, they might want to think twice before crossing Cunningham.
She takes the hard hit and goes down, obviously, gets back up and just laughs. Like, that's a legitimate thing where you're like, okay, yeah, this is a person who is just, like, there is a toughness there with Sophie Cunningham. And, like, she's not scared.
Now let's break down how this move changes the Fever's lineup. Cunningham steps in as a versatile wing who can shoot, defend, and bring veteran leadership. Last season, she averaged 8.4 points, 3.9 rebounds, and 2.0 assists per game. While those aren't superstar numbers, they're exactly what Indiana needed. She doesn't need the ball in her hands to make an impact, but when she gets it, she'll make defenses pay.
So yeah, like, a solid signing for what she does on the floor. But like, be protecting Caitlin Clark type thing.
She's just a smart player. You already see what she's done in her rookie season, and I think she gets the ball to people in the right positions to help them be successful. So that's huge, and I'm hoping that I can give her a little bit more leadership and knowledge for her to understand this league a little bit better. And like I said, when playoffs hit, she'll be ready. My first game in Indiana, we got to get a win.
What excites you the most about this team that you're going to be joining?
I mean, they have dynamic pieces in CC and Kelsey Mitchell and AB, Lexi Hall. I mean, they have a great core, so why not just add to that and try to take us to the next level in the playoffs. They were in first round, and I played against them in the first round, and the way they came back the second game, it just makes you excited to, okay, I want to be a part of that. They didn't lay down and quit. They came back and actually try to beat us really, that next game. Like I said, hopefully I can make her job a little easier and she can make mine a little easier, but yeah, I think she's a great person, and we, been kind of connecting here. We had a great workout this morning, and it was fun. She's a fun kid. Kind of went on this crazy run, and they were the most well-gelled team at that time. They went from the bottom straight, and they just kept trending. And it was like one of those teams you're like, man, you don't want to really see them in the playoffs. So we got the matchup, and I think our experience helped us very well. But that second game, they came out, and it was like, yeah, they just kind of went on this trajectory that was just like on the rise, and it was literally fever on the rise during right after All-Star. So that's exciting. That's exciting for me to see, and that kind of helped me with my.
That experience to a young, maturing team, what can you provide?
I'm hoping that I can provide a little bit of leadership, but I feel like they're a team that last year helped them a lot and understand the dynamics of playoffs. It's a whole different ball game when playoffs come, and I feel like they're a young team, but they're a good team, and hopefully I can just provide the knowledge and explain playoffs to them a little bit better so we can be better prepared and don't get punched in the face the first game. And it's hard to come back when you do that. The first game, it's hard to come back and try to win 2 straight against a veteran team. So I think they got it.
Your current team has made some interesting moves the last few days. How do you feel about what your roster suddenly looks like?
I'm excited. Obviously, we made some great moves. I think, Kelly and Amber and the whole, Fever organization are, they're helping us win now. And I think that's really important. I think they're putting really good pieces together that are going to, complement each other really, really well.